Commander Zyx'Vora of the 7th Galactic Fleet slouched in his command chair, 3 of his 7 appendages tapping impatiently against the polished obsidian armrests. The view screen before him displayed a small, unremarkable blue-green planet, the 3rd rock from an equally unremarkable yellow star. "Remind me again," Zyx'Vora sighed dramatically, his vocal sacs inflating with the perfect amount of disdain, "why we have traveled 17 parsecs to this backwater." Lieutenant Krillnox, whose exoskeleton gleamed under the ship's ambient lighting, cleared all 4 of her throats simultaneously. "Supreme Intelligence has designated this planet as potential threat level Omega, Commander." "Omega." Zyx'Vora's eye stalks swiveled toward his lieutenant, genuine surprise overriding his perpetual boredom. "The same classification as the Arcturus Dominion? The same as the quantum hive of Betelgeuse?" "That Omega." "Affirmative, Commander, but they are still using fossil fuels." Zyx'Vora gestured wildly at the view screen with 3 tentacles. "They haven't even colonized their own moon properly. Their primary global communication network is primarily used for sharing images of juvenile felines and arguing with strangers." The bridge fell silent as the crew absorbed this outburst. Zyx'Vora's personal data assistant, Blip, a hovering sphere of quantum technology, beeped softly. "Commander." Blip's synthesized voice was irritatingly calm. "Supreme Intelligence classification is based on potential, not current technological status. Analysis of Earth transmissions indicates rapid technological advancement relative to their evolutionary timeline." "Fine. Zyx'Vora waved dismissively. "Engage cloaking shields and prepare for atmospheric entry. Let's get this evaluation over with, so I could go back to my hibernation pod." The new season of So You Think You Can Metamorphose starts next solar cycle. As the massive Vessel 1 of 300 in the Armada descended through Earth's atmosphere, completely invisible to the primitive tracking systems below, Zyx'Vora reviewed the Supreme Intelligence's briefing materials on his neural interface. Species: human, Homo sapiens. Average lifespan: pathetically brief primary defense mechanisms, primitive projectile weapons, nuclear devices. Pointy sticks notable traits: resilience, adaptability, inexplicable optimism, makes oddly appealing fermented. Beverages, threat assessment rationale. Anomalous development curve suggesting potential for quantum leap in technological capability within single generation. Anomalous development curve. Zyx'Vora muttered. They went from horse-drawn carriages to nuclear weapons in less than a century. "I suppose that is concerning." "Commander," Lieutenant Krillnox interrupted, "we have identified an optimal observation point. A rural area with minimal population density. Approximately 17 kilometers from their settlement designated as Millsburg, Ohio." "Perfect. That sounds suitably boring." Zyx'Vora straightened his ceremonial collar. "Deploy the reconnaissance drones. And someone bring me one of those Earth beverages. The brown one with bubbles that's destroying their dental health. I'm feeling adventurous." Dr. Josephine Joe Alvarez hadn't planned on being awake at 3:27 a.m., but the persistent ping from her equipment had dragged her from a pleasant dream involving tenure and an unlimited research budget. Now, blinking at the monitor in her makeshift lab, formerly the garage of her grandfather's farmhouse, she was certain she must still be dreaming. "That's impossible," she whispered, adjusting her glasses as she stared at the readings. The atmospheric disturbance detector she'd built as a side project, mostly to prove her former colleagues at NASA wrong, was going absolutely berserk. Something massive had entered Earth's atmosphere, yet had somehow avoided detection by every official monitoring system. J.O. reached for her phone, then hesitated. Who exactly does one call when potentially discovering humanity's first contact with extraterrestrial intelligence? Especially when one's recent professional reputation wasn't exactly stellar after that disastrous presentation at JPL, where she'd suggested unconventional methods for detecting cloaked spacecraft. The same presentation that had earned her the nickname Alien Alvarez and effectively ended her promising career. "Validation is going to taste so sweet," Joe murmured, grabbing her jacket and a flashlight. Whatever had triggered her equipment had touched down nearby. The rational part of her brain, the part still clinging to her scientific training, suggested multiple explanations. Equipment malfunction, unusual weather phenomenon, military testing. but her gut told her something else entirely. "Commander, we have a problem." Zyx'Vora, who had been enjoying his seventh Diet Coke, a beverage he found inexplicably delightful despite its bizarre aftertaste, groaned dramatically. "There's always a problem, Krillnox. Can't we have one planetary evaluation without a problem? Our cloaking field has been detected by a primitive sensor array approximately 2 Earth kilometers from our position." Zyx'Vora spat out his drink, the dark liquid spattering across the command console. "What? That's impossible. Our technology is centuries beyond anything these humans could comprehend." Blip hovered closer, projecting a holographic display. "Anomaly detected. Single human dwelling contains custom-built detection equipment operating on principles that shouldn't exist in their current technological paradigm. Show me this dwelling immediately." The view screen shifted to display a modest structure surrounded by agricultural land. A single human was emerging from the building, looking directly toward their position with a handheld illumination device. "Fascinating." Zyx'Vora leaned forward, genuine interest replacing his usual ennui. "A technological anomaly. This might explain the Supreme Intelligence's Omega classification." He tapped his command console. "Prepare an abduction probe. I want to meet this human." Lieutenant Krillnox's exoskeleton paled slightly, the equivalent of a human blanching. "Commander, protocol strictly prohibits direct contact during preliminary evaluations." Yes, I'm aware of protocol. I have been conducting these evaluations since before your egg clutch was fertilized." Zyx'Vora rose from his command chair, stretching to his full 3-meter height. "But this human has detected technology that should be undetectable. That makes them an anomaly, and anomalies must be studied directly. I'm simply following Supreme Intelligence directives regarding technological aberrations." Krillnox couldn't argue with this logic, though her antenna drooped with concern. "Besides," Zyx'Vora added, straightening his uniform, "I have always wanted to say take me to your leader to someone." Joe Alvarez was not easily frightened. Growing up as the only girl in a household with 4 older brothers had made sure of that. But walking alone through a cornfield at night, following readings on a handheld device of her own design, had her heart pounding uncomfortably in her chest. "You wanted proof, Joe," she reminded herself. "Can't complain when the universe actually delivers." Her detector led her to a clearing where the corn had been flattened in a perfect circle approximately 50 meters in diameter. The air felt strange, electrically charged, with an odd metallic taste. "Hello?" she called out, immediately feeling foolish. What was she expecting? A little green man to pop out and ask for directions to the White House. The air in front of her shimmered, like heat rising from asphalt on a summer day. Joe froze, her scientific mind racing through possible explanations, each more implausible than the last. Then, without warning, a beam of brilliant blue light engulfed her, and Dr. Josephine Alvarez experienced the peculiar sensation of being disassembled at the molecular level. Her last coherent thought before consciousness faded was, "I really hope they don't probe me." "Commander, the human is regaining consciousness." Zyx'Vora turned from his fascinating study of the human's primitive communication device, apparently called a smartphone, to observe the specimen. They had placed the human on a standard examination platform, though they'd thoughtfully adjusted it to accommodate human physiology and remove the neural extractors. "Excellent. Activate the universal translator and prepare the memory modification protocols, just in case." The human female was blinking rapidly, her vital signs indicating an understandable spike in stress hormones. Zyx'Vora assumed what he believed to be a non-threatening posture, folding 4 of his 7 appendages behind his back and dimming his bioluminescent spots to a gentle glow. "Greetings, Earth scientist. Please remain calm. You are temporarily aboard the exploration vessel Nebula Strider. You will be returned to your dwelling unharmed once our conversation is complete." The human stared at him, her mouth opening and closing without producing sound or reaction Zyx'Vora had observed in many species during first contact scenarios. Finally, she spoke. You speak English?" "Universal translator," Zyx'Vora explained, gesturing to the small device at what approximated his throat. "Though your language is remarkably simple to adapt. Only 1 vocabulary set? Most evolved species have at least 3 distinct communication modes." The human sat up slowly, her eyes darting around the examination room, cataloging everything with impressive attention to detail. Zyx'Vora noted this with approval. Perhaps Supreme Intelligence's assessment wasn't completely unfounded. "I'm Dr. Josephine Alvarez," she said, her voice steadier than he expected. "Former astrophysicist with NASA's Exoplanetary Research Division. Current status: unemployed scientific pariah." "Intriguing introduction," Zyx'Vora replied. "I am Commander Zyx'Vora of the 7th Galactic Fleet, Evaluation Division. Current status: increasingly perplexed by your planet." "Tell me, Dr. Alvarez, how did you detect our vessel? Your civilization shouldn't possess such capability for at least another century." The human Dr. Alvarez straightened her back and met his gaze directly, a gesture that Zyx'Vora's cultural database indicated signified either confidence or extreme terror masked as bravado. "Quantum fluctuation detection. I developed the theory that cloaked extraterrestrial craft would create minute disturbances in the quantum field, similar to how submarines create pressure waves underwater." Zyx'Vora blinked all three of his eyes simultaneously, a gesture of profound surprise. "That's remarkably insightful for your species' current developmental stage. Are there many humans who understand this principle?" Dr. Alvarez laughed, a sound that contained minimal mirth. "No, just me. That's why I'm living in my grandfather's farmhouse instead of working at a proper research facility. My colleagues thought I was crazy." "Fascinating." Zyx'Vora turned to Lieutenant Krillnox. "Make a note. Isolated advancement nodes. Singular humans making cognitive leaps beyond their collective development." He turned back to Dr. Alvarez. "Your detection technology is why we are here, Dr. Alvarez. Supreme Intelligence has classified your planet as a potential threat level Omega, our highest designation." "Threat?" Dr. Alvarez's expression registered alarm. "We can barely agree on basic climate science. We are hardly a threat to an interstellar civilization." "Not currently," Zyx'Vora clarified. "But your species has an unusually steep development curve. From primitive agriculture to rudimentary space exploration in mere millennia. Most species take at least twice as long. And individuals like you making intuitive leaps that bypass normal development stages accelerate that curve exponentially." He activated a holographic display showing Earth's technological progression timeline. "Your species is chaotic, unpredictable. You develop technologies faster than your ethical frameworks can adapt. This combination makes you potentially dangerous not just to yourselves, but eventually to the galactic community." Dr. Alvarez stared at the display, her expression shifting from wonder to concern. "So what happens now? Is this an invasion? Are you going to eliminate us?" Zyx'Vora's vocal sacs inflated with indignation. "Eliminate? How barbaric. We are not monsters, Dr. Alvarez. We are evaluators. The Armada is here to assess, not destroy." "The Armada," Dr. Alvarez repeated, her voice rising slightly. "How many ships?" 300 capital ships, plus support vessels," Zyx'Vora replied casually. "Standard evaluation flotilla." The human paled noticeably. "And they're all here? Now? Above Earth?" "Of course. Though only my ship has approached your atmosphere. The others maintain position at the edge of your solar system." Zyx'Vora studied her reaction with interest. "Does this disturb you? 300 advanced alien spacecraft hovering around Earth without anyone knowing?" "No, that's not disturbing at all." Her voice contained a vocal modulation that Zyx'Vora's translator identified as sarcasm, apparently a common human communication trait. "What exactly are you evaluating?" she continued, sliding off the examination platform to stand. Zyx'Vora noted she was remarkably composed for a being experiencing first contact. "Your potential, development trajectory, threat assessment, possibility for eventual integration into the galactic commonwealth." He gestured vaguely with a tentacle. "Standard procedure for emerging intelligent species. And if we fail this evaluation..." Zyx'Vora's bioluminescent spots dimmed slightly. "Containment protocols. Nothing lethal. We are not barbarians. Typically, we establish a quantum barrier around the solar system. Your development would continue normally, but expansion beyond your local stellar neighborhood would be impossible until you have reached appropriate maturity. You quarantine us? The entire planet. Dr. Alvarez's voice contained a mix of outrage and fascination, only if necessary. But this conversation has been most illuminating, Dr. Alvarez. Zyx'Vora moved toward a console and activated sequence. Your cognitive capabilities suggest humanity may be more advanced than our initial scans indicated. I believe a more thorough evaluation is warranted. Lieutenant Krillnox's antenna shot up in alarm. Commander, you can't possibly be suggesting, oh, but I am. Zyx'Vora's vocal sacs expanded with excitement. Dr. Alvarez, how would you like to address the Evaluation Council? Present humanity's case, so to speak? Me? Dr. Alvarez looked stunned. Why me? Why not a world leader or, I don't know, someone with actual authority? Because you detected us, Zyx'Vora explained, as if it were obvious. You made a technological leap that your civilization shouldn't be capable of. You are precisely the type of anomaly that might justify an Omega classification or potentially refute it. Who better to represent your species? But I'm just one person. I can't speak for all of humanity. Of course you can, Zyx'Vora countered cheerfully. We do it all the time in these evaluations. Much more efficient than trying to establish consensus among billions of individuals. Before Dr. Alvarez could protest further, the ship's alarm system activated, bathing the examination room in pulsating red light. Commander, Blip hovered frantically near the console. Multiple Earth defense systems have activated. They have detected the secondary vessels entering the atmosphere. What? That's impossible. I gave no orders for atmospheric entry. Zyx'Vora's appendages flailed in confusion. Lieutenant Krillnox was already reviewing data on her console. Commander, it appears the Evaluation Council grew impatient. They have initiated Phase 2 evaluation protocols without authorization. Those bureaucratic barnacles. Zyx'Vora slammed a tentacle against the console. They know I prefer to conduct preliminary evaluations personally. Phase 2 is premature. What's Phase 2? Dr. Alvarez demanded, her scientific curiosity apparently overriding her fear. Zyx'Vora sighed dramatically. Visibility testing. The Council deploys unmanned probe vessels in plain sight over major population centers to evaluate reaction. It's meant to occur only after careful preparation and psychological assessment. You mean UFOs? You're sending actual UFOs to hover over our cities. Dr. Alvarez looked incredulous. Technically, they're no longer unidentified if you know what they are, Zyx'Vora pointed out. But yes, essentially, this is bad, Dr. Alvarez said, running a hand through her hair. Very bad. Humanity doesn't do well with sudden, unexplained phenomena, especially phenomena that might be perceived as threatening, which is precisely why Phase 2 is supposed to be carefully coordinated. Zyx'Vora exclaimed, his irritation with the Council evident in his pulsating chromatophores. Blip, show me Earth media feeds. The view screen activated, displaying multiple human news broadcasts simultaneously. Each showed chaotic scenes of humans reacting to the sudden appearance of sleek, silver discs hovering above major cities worldwide. Military vessels were being scrambled. Panic was spreading rapidly. Oh, this is going splendidly, Zyx'Vora muttered. Just perfect. Lieutenant, hail the Council immediately. Inform them that their premature action has compromised the evaluation protocols. They are not responding, Commander. Of course they are not. Zyx'Vora turned to Dr. Alvarez, who was watching the screens with growing horror. It appears, Dr. Alvarez, that your opportunity to address the Council may come sooner than anticipated. The question is, can your species handle this level of revelation without descending into chaos? Dr. Alvarez tore her gaze from the screens. That depends. Are those vessels armed? Of course not. They are observation probes, not battle cruisers. Zyx'Vora sounded offended at the very suggestion. But our military doesn't know that, Dr. Alvarez pointed out, and they're going to assume the worst. As if on cue, one of the news feeds showed fighter jets approaching a probe vessel over a human city labeled Beijing. Oh no, Lieutenant Krillnox whispered. What? What? Oh no, Dr. Alvarez demanded. The probes have automated defense protocols, Zyx'Vora explained reluctantly. Non-lethal, of course, but on screen, as a fighter jet fired a missile at the probe, a pulse of energy erupted from the silver disk. The missile disintegrated harmlessly, but the pulse continued outward, creating a visible shockwave that disabled the aircraft systems. The jet began to fall toward the densely populated city below. "Do something," Dr. Alvarez shouted. The Zyx'Vora's appendages flew across the command console, activating emergency intervention protocols. The falling jet suddenly froze in midair, surrounded by a soft blue glow, then gently descended to an empty space in what appeared to be a park. "Tractor containment successful," Blip reported. "One crisis averted," Zyx'Vora muttered. "Approximately 7 billion potential crises remaining." Dr. Alvarez was pacing now, her mind clearly racing. "You need to recall those probes immediately. This is the worst possible first contact scenario." "I'm trying. The Council has overridden my command protocols." Zyx'Vora's frustration was evident in the rapid color changes rippling across his skin. "This is exactly why I hate bureaucracy. 3,000 years of careful, methodical evaluation protocols, and they throw it all away because they are impatient." "Wait." Dr. Alvarez stopped pacing. "You said I could address the Council. Make them see reason." "Technically, yes, but then let me do it. Now." Her voice was firm, her posture resolute. "Before your non-lethal defense systems cause a panic that could take generations to recover from." Zyx'Vora studied the human with new appreciation. She was displaying remarkable adaptability under extreme stress, exactly the kind of trait Supreme Intelligence had flagged as potentially concerning in humanity. "Very well." He activated a different console. "Emergency Council session requested. Priority Alpha." The view screen shifted to display a semicircle of various alien beings, some vaguely humanoid, others utterly bizarre by Earth standards. All wore elaborate ceremonial garments that Zyx'Vora had always found unnecessarily ostentatious. "Commander Zyx'Vora," the central figure spoke, its voice rumbling like distant thunder. "Explain why you have initiated priority alpha protocols during a standard evaluation." "Respected Council," Zyx'Vora began, his tone uncharacteristically formal. "Your deployment of Phase 2 probes was premature and has created a potentially catastrophic situation. The species has not been properly prepared for visible contact." The evaluation timeline indicated readiness. Another counselor countered, this one appearing as little more than a shifting cloud of luminous particles. "Based on outdated algorithms." Zyx'Vora protested. "I have direct evidence that humanity requires specialized evaluation protocols." "What evidence?" demanded a third counselor. Zyx'Vora gestured to Dr. Alvarez. "This human detected our presence despite our most advanced cloaking technology. She represents an anomalous advancement node that justifies modified contact procedures." The Council murmured among themselves, their various appendages, tentacles, and energy fields showing signs of surprise. "Human," the central counselor addressed Dr. Alvarez directly. "You may speak." Joe Alvarez took a deep breath, acutely aware that she was possibly the first human being to address an interstellar governing body. The absurdity of her situation, from disgraced scientist to humanity's impromptu ambassador in the span of a few hours, was not lost on her. "Respected Council," she began, her voice steadier than she felt. "I understand you are evaluating Earth's readiness for contact with your civilization, but your current approach is dangerously flawed." She gestured to the screens, still showing chaos unfolding across Earth. "What you are witnessing isn't humanity at its best, or worst, it's humanity caught completely off guard. We are a species that needs time to process new information, especially information that fundamentally alters our understanding of our place in the universe. Yet your military vessels attacked our unarmed probes," one counselor noted. "Of course they did. Unidentified objects suddenly appearing over major population centers? What did you expect? A welcoming parade?" Joe didn't bother hiding her exasperation. "Humanity has been imagining alien contact for centuries, often in terms of invasion scenarios. Your approach has inadvertently confirmed our worst fears." "Interesting," the central counselor mused. "You suggest our evaluation method is flawed because it fails to account for your species' psychological response patterns?" "Exactly. You can't judge a species' readiness by shocking them into a panic response." Joe pointed to the screens. This isn't an accurate representation of human potential or behavior. It's like judging someone's swimming ability by pushing them unexpectedly into deep water. Zyx'Vora made a sound that his translator couldn't quite interpret, something between a chuckle and a wheeze. The human makes an excellent point. Counselors, our protocols were designed for gradual integration, not sudden revelation. What do you propose, human? Asked the luminous cloud counselor. J.O. hadn't expected to be asked for alternatives. She thought quickly, drawing on her scientific background and understanding of human psychology. Recall your visible probes immediately. Then, if you genuinely want to evaluate our readiness, start with limited control contact. Work with a small group of scientists and diplomats who can help prepare humanity gradually. Let us introduce the concept of extraterrestrial intelligence on our terms at a pace we can manage. Unprecedented, muttered one counselor. But logical, countered another. The central counselor leaned forward, its multifaceted eyes gleaming with interest. And you believe humanity would respond better to such a gradual approach? I know we would, Joe affirmed. Humans are remarkably adaptable, but we need time. Give us that time, and you might be surprised by how ready we actually are. The council withdrew to confer privately, their images temporarily replaced by a swirling geometric pattern that Zyx'Vora explained was the universal symbol for please hold. That was impressively articulate, the commander told her, his vocal sacs inflating slightly with what Joe interpreted as approval. I have rehearsed first contact speeches in my head since I was 12, Joe admitted, though they usually didn't involve quite so much existential panic. A common issue with first contacts, Zyx'Vora assured her. You should have seen the Trappist, one evaluation. 3 of their moons still have scorch marks. Before Joe could inquire further about this concerning statement, the council reappeared on screen. We have reached a decision, the central counselor announced. The probes will be recalled immediately. Commander Zyx'Vora, you are authorized to implement the human's suggested protocol limited, controlled contact with selected representatives of Earth. The evaluation timeline will be extended accordingly. Zyx'Vora's bioluminescent spots brightened considerably. Thank you, counselors. A wise decision. However, the counselor continued, Supreme Intelligence maintains the Omega classification. Earth will remain under observation. The human, Dr. Alvarez, will serve as primary liaison for this modified evaluation protocol. Wait, what? You blurted, forgetting diplomatic protocol entirely. Me? But I'm not. I don't have any official capacity to you detected us, the counselor stated simply. You proposed this alternative. You will implement it. The council has spoken. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Joe staring at the now blank screen in stunned silence. Congratulations, Dr. Alvarez, Zyx'Vora said cheerfully, extending what appeared to be his equivalent of a hand. You have just been appointed Earth's first galactic affairs officer. How does it feel to go from unemployed to interstellar diplomat in under 6 hours? Joe opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again. I think I preferred being abducted. 3 months later, Joe stood in a secure conference room deep beneath the United Nations building in New York, facing a panel of world leaders, military officials, and scientific experts. Behind her, Zyx'Vora floated serenely in a specially designed support chair that accommodated his non-humanoid physiology. And that concludes our summary of the Galactic Commonwealth structure, technological capabilities, and evaluation protocols. Joe finished, closing the holographic display that Zyx'Vora had provided. Questions? The room erupted with raised hands and voices, exactly as it had during the previous 17 briefings she'd conducted. The transition from solitary researcher to humanity's primary extraterrestrial liaison had been challenging, to say the least. The Secretary General managed to restore order after several minutes. Dr. Alvarez, while we appreciate the thoroughness of your report, many of us are still struggling with the implications. You are suggesting that Earth has been under evaluation for decades. Centuries, actually, Zyx'Vora interjected cheerfully, his translator rendering his multi-tonal speech into crisp English. We have maintained observation posts throughout your solar system since your Industrial Revolution. Those unusual readings your Voyager probes detected past Neptune? That was us, waving hello. The NASA administrator looked like he might faint. And this Armada, the U.S. president continued, 300 advanced spacecraft. They are still out there. Most have been reassigned. Joe explained, having grown accustomed to managing the anxiety these revelations inevitably caused. The Council agreed that a full evaluation flotilla was unnecessary under the new protocol. Commander Zyx'Vora's vessel remains in Earth orbit, cloaked, along with a small support fleet. How small? Asked the Russian president suspiciously. Merely 20 ships. Zyx'Vora replied with a dismissive wave of a tentacle. Barely enough for a proper diplomatic mission by Commonwealth standards. Joe suppressed a smile at the collective pallor that spread across the room. 20 vastly superior alien vessels casually orbiting Earth still enough to fundamentally alter humanity's understanding of its place in the cosmos. The important thing, she continued, redirecting the conversation, is that we have been granted an unprecedented opportunity. The Commonwealth has agreed to establish limited technological and cultural exchange programs while the evaluation continues. This is not something they typically offer species at our development stage. And we have you to thank for this opportunity, Dr. Alvarez. The Chinese premier's tone made it clear he was still processing the fact that Earth's first contact had been managed by a formerly discredited scientist rather than through official channels. Dr. Alvarez demonstrated exceptional reasoning capabilities under pressure, Zyx'Vora stated firmly. Her intervention prevented what could have been a significantly less productive first contact scenario. The Council was impressed. The German Chancellor leaned forward. And this Omega classification, it still stands? You nodded. Yes. The Commonwealth remains concerned about humanity's development trajectory, specifically our tendency to advance technologically faster than we develop ethical frameworks to manage that technology. They think we are dangerous, the Secretary of Defense summarized bluntly. They think we have potential, Joe corrected, both for great achievement and great disaster. The purpose of the evaluation is to determine which path we are more likely to follow. And if they decide we are too dangerous? The question hung in the air like a storm cloud that J.O. glanced at Zyx'Vora, who nodded encouragingly. They had discussed how much to reveal about containment protocols, eventually agreeing that complete transparency was necessary. If the Commonwealth determines that Earth represents a genuine threat to galactic stability, they have the capability to establish a quantum barrier around our solar system, Joe explained. We would be effectively quarantined until we demonstrate sufficient maturity. The room erupted again, voices raised in alarm and outrage. Joe waited patiently for the furor to subside, having expected this reaction. However, she continued once the Secretary General had restored order, I believe we have a unique opportunity to demonstrate that humanity is ready for broader engagement with the galactic community. Commander Zyx'Vora has agreed to act as an advisor during this transition period, helping us establish the frameworks necessary for eventual integration. Very generous of him. The British Prime Minister remarked dryly, Zyx'Vora's vocal sacs inflated with what Joe had come to recognize as amusement. Self-interest, I assure you. My preliminary report suggesting modified evaluation protocols has made me something of a celebrity within the Commonwealth. If this approach succeeds, I stand to gain considerable professional advancement. Joe smiled at the commander's candor. Over the past months, she developed an unexpected appreciation for Zyx'Vora's particular blend of bureaucratic cynicism and genuine scientific curiosity. He reminded her of many of her former academic colleagues, beings who had seen too much of institutional politics but retained their fundamental fascination with the universe. What happens next? The Indian Prime Minister asked. Phase 1 of the modified protocol involves establishing an international committee to manage initial technological exchanges, Joe explained. Nothing that would dramatically alter Earth's development trajectory. The Commonwealth has strict non-interference policies for developing worlds, but enough to demonstrate their good faith and encourage cooperative relationships. In Phase 2, the Russian president pressed. J.O. smiled. Cultural exchange. Commonwealth representatives will begin limited interaction with selected human group scientists, artists, philosophers. The goal is mutual understanding, not just technological assessment. They want to know if we are worth knowing, the Japanese Prime Minister observed insightfully. Precisely, Zyx'Vora confirmed. The Commonwealth comprises over 4,000 species across 17 galaxies. New members must demonstrate not only technological capability, but cultural compatibility. So we are being evaluated on whether aliens like our music and philosophy. The U.S. president looked skeptical. In part, Joe acknowledged. But more fundamentally, they're evaluating whether humanity can adapt to the reality of a much larger community without losing what makes us uniquely human. Whether we can contribute something valuable to a civilization that spans galaxies. The Secretary General stood, signaling the briefing's conclusion. Dr. Alvarez, Commander Zyx'Vora, thank you for your candor. The United Nations Security Council will convene tomorrow to begin establishing the international committee you have recommended. Until then, we request that all information shared today remains strictly confidential. As the world leaders filed out, many still whispering urgently among themselves, Joe felt a tentacle gently tap her shoulder. You handled that remarkably well, Zyx'Vora told her. Much better than my first interspecies diplomatic briefing. The serious delegation still refuses to make eye contact with me. Joe laughed, the tension of the past hours finally breaking. I still can't believe this is my life now. 3 months ago, I was considered a scientific pariah. Now I'm introducing an alien ambassador to the United Nations. The universe enjoys irony, Zyx'Vora philosophized. It's one of the few constants across all known civilizations. They walked toward the exit, an unlikely pair that represented the beginning of humanity's greatest adventure. You know, Joe said thoughtfully, for an advanced civilization that's been observing us for centuries, your people really don't understand humans very well. How so? Sending giant spaceships to hover over our cities? That's literally the plot of a dozen invasion movies. Zyx'Vora's chromatophores flashed with embarrassment. The Phase 2 protocols were established 10,000 years ago. The Commonwealth doesn't update its bureaucratic procedures very often. Well, that's reassuring, Joe remarked sarcastically. An advanced interstellar civilization with outdated paperwork. Some things, Zyx'Vora said sagely, are universal constants. Bureaucracy is apparently one of them. As they stepped outside into the sunlight, Joe gazed up at the clear blue sky, knowing what now lurked beyond it, not just stars and planets, but civilizations, possibilities, and potential new allies. So, she said, turning to the alien commander who had irrevocably changed humanity's future, what do you really think of our chances? Off the record, will we pass this evaluation? Zyx'Vora's bioluminescent spots pulsed thoughtfully as they walked. Humanity is chaotic, unpredictable, sometimes terrifying in its capacity for both destruction and creation. His vocal sacs expanded slightly. But you detected us when no one else could. You proposed a solution that our 4,000 species bureaucracy couldn't conceive. You adapted to the existence of interstellar civilization in less time than it takes most species to process a minor cultural shock. He extended 3 tentacles in a gesture that somehow conveyed profound respect. The Commonwealth doesn't know it yet, but they need humanity far more than humanity needs the Commonwealth. Your species doesn't just think outside the box, you don't even see the box. You spoil it. That might be the nicest thing anyone's ever said about us. Don't let it go to your head, Zyx'Vora replied dryly. You are still using fossil fuels. Looking up at the sky once more, Joe laughed. Not for much longer, Commander. Not for much longer. Above them, invisible to human eyes, but ever present, the advanced vessels of the Commonwealth continued their silent observation of the small blue planet, no longer evaluating a potential threat, but witnessing the birth of a new galactic partnership. Earth had thought itself alone. The Armada had proved otherwise. And in that revelation lay humanity's greatest challenge and its greatest opportunity.